So I had to be on bed rest for 2 years where I couldn't leave this dark room because I got really ill and light, sound and touch and movement hurt me. So I literally had to lie in a dark room by myself for 2 years. And I couldn't really have a lot of television or anything. I just had to entertain myself. And I did that by inventing TV shows and films in my head and just playing them to myself.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Voices podcast, creator podcast about influencer marketing. I'm Jenny, the CEO of Digital Voices, as you probably know. And I have an amazing guest on today that I'm so excited to talk to. Jess, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, sure. I'm Jessica Kellgren-Fozard. I'm a YouTuber. I make videos that are all kind of about my life with chronic illness, disabilities, and also LGBT stuff, just happy stuff with my wife. But I'd say the main focus of my channel is taking life lessons and giving them a really positive spin. So there's something that you can take away no matter where you are in your life.
It's pretty heartwarming to watch. If you haven't watched Jess's stuff, it's very heartwarming.
Thank you. And there's also a good dash of vintage fashion.
If you can't tell. Perfect. Right. So what we're going to do is we've got some clips here of Jess choosing a camera, a vintage camera, and she actually spray painted it, which is something you probably never thought you'd see Jess do.
No, I've never done that before in my life.
And she's going to sign it and give it away. We'll give it away to one of the commenters at the end. Tell us your favourite thing Jess says throughout the podcast, and we'll choose one and post it to you. Well, so firstly, I've already got your name insultingly wrong, which is really embarrassing.
You've been to my house.
I've been to your house. I've met your dogs. Like, that's deep.
You're in my life, Jenny.
I know. Jessie or Jessica. Number one hint, don't call her Jess.
It's okay. You don't need to feel uncomfortable.
It's stressing me now. No, I'm hilariously awkward on podcasts.
Okay, why?
Because I never was on YouTube videos. People, when you interview YouTube creators, they know what they're doing. Most of the time they're used to being on camera.
Yeah, sure.
And just feel deeply uncomfortable. So.
Oh, it's okay. Just pretend it's the two of us.
So how did you start making YouTube videos? Because your channel's been going for about 3 years.
Yes, it has almost 3 years now, actually. It was because I was working for a local TV station. And it was very much, I had to fit into someone else's very regimented way of working. It was, I had my studio time from this time till this time, and I had to film what I was told to film, and I had to say what they wanted me to say, and then edit it the way they wanted me to. And I got absolutely no credit when it went well, but when it went wrong, it was, of course, all my fault. And also, I have a chronic illness, and working around that and a very strict studio schedule was not working at all, because I'm like, if I miss my 2-hour gap for filming this show because I'm violently vomiting somewhere, how am I going to make it up? I can't. It just doesn't go out that week, or I've got to use old footage or something. So YouTube for me was very much just a kind of, I want to make films. I've always wanted to make little videos about things, mini documentaries essentially, and I need to work for myself and work around my own schedule and timetable. And actually, also part of it is that I can't spend much of the day sitting up, which sounds like a really random thing, but I have to spend a lot of time lying down. And when you work for yourself, you can edit from the floor.
It's on the floor or bed or on a sofa?
Yeah,
How do you just...
Oh, all three. You gotta mix it up. Keep your day exciting and keep the ceiling that you're looking at changing. How I keep the fun in my days.
When you're working for the TV station,
yes,
were you editing there as well? Could you already edit?
So it was like you're there, you're presenting, you're very much on stage, and then you've got to immediately edit, and then it goes out. Or I was working with an editor, and it couldn't be just exactly the way I wanted, and it was just very difficult. And I think the freedom of YouTube really was something I was very attracted to, but it's also something that I went into thinking, well, I'm kind of going to have to make a career out of this because I don't have my job anymore. So guess we're going to go for this. And my wife was like, I will give you 6 months in which I will fund this. And if it doesn't work out, you're getting a real job. It's like, okay.
In some ways, that's quite supportive and also gave you kind of like a structured kick up the arse. It's like you have to do this or it won't work.
Yeah. So it was, fortunately, it did start working, which is good. I didn't exactly make a lot of money for the first year. But she decided 6 months in I was doing well enough that I was allowed to continue. Thanks, wife.
Freedom. And so when you were growing up, do you want to be on television, or how did you get into that industry?
I very much always wanted to work in media because my father's a film director. So I grew up in the kind of very creative atmosphere of bringing stories to life. And I always wanted to write stories and then make them come alive, whether that was through animation or through making live action TV shows or even documentaries. Just seeing all these kind of thoughts and ideas that I had swirling around come into screen and be able to share them. I think it also has something to do with being very dyslexic. Yeah. Whereas if I can kind of sit down and write, or I can talk to a camera, and it is so much faster to talk to a camera than when I'm attempting to write something.
Do you find you think very visually then?
Very much so. I would say that I see in television or I see in film. So I had to be on bed rest for 2 years where I couldn't leave this dark room because I got really ill and light, sound and touch and movement hurt me. So I literally had to lie in a dark room by myself for 2 years. And I couldn't really have a lot of television or anything. I just had to entertain myself. And I did that by inventing TV shows and films in my head and just playing them to myself.
Wow.
Spent a lot of time one-on-one.
How old were you at that stage?
I was 17, between 17 and 19.
Wow. Okay. So let's just, because I feel like I've heard tiny bits of this story as your friend, but I feel as though often you don't get to hear kind of where your life went in its entirety.
My full life story.
When did you... So you grew up wanting to do TV and kind of wanting to make these stories and learn to animate, learn to edit. That was part of your childhood or teenage years?
Yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to go and work for the BBC and I'm going to make period dramas and documentaries, which you could have seen that one coming, let's be honest.
History videos, yeah.
Yeah, very much. Very into that.
When did you find out you were ill, or were you born deaf?
So I have 2 genetic disabilities and I was born with them, obviously, because they're genetic, but no one was really aware of it. So I grew up my childhood and most of my teenage years knowing that there was something wrong with me and trying to tell adults around me that there was something wrong with me and being told that there wasn't. Like the number of times I have been to A&E as a kid and been like, no, this is really wrong. And the doctor's like, well, it's not broken, so it's not wrong. And I'm like, I can't feel my leg. That doesn't seem right. And it's actually because I have a condition that paralyzes my limbs.
What's it called?
It's called hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsies with mixed connective tissue disorder and associated postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister.
Wish you didn't ask now, aren't you?
Well, I'm glad you won't test me on it. So it sounds like it's a very... How many people suffer with it in the world?
Well, I have no idea. They're separate things. How many people have all 3 of those things? Not many. I don't know. To quote a random figure, probably like 20,000, I would say, have a crossover. Yeah. It's because I have an inherited condition from my mother and my father. So putting them together is what creates the kind of drama of my body. So it affects every part of my body. It affects my nerves, my organs, my soft tissue, my hearing, vision, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, everything really.
Okay. Did you realize when you were young, were there times where you get kind of specific acute attacks, or does it come in waves? Does it get worse?
So when I was born, they just kind of classified me as a distressed baby because they were like, there's something wrong with the kid. We don't know what. My mum was like, thanks. Good. They're like, just take her home. He'll be fine. She's like, good.
She's like, but I love her.
Wonderful. It's going to be great. Really good. And my mother's the youngest of 6 sisters. And then so they've all got kids. And they were all like, oh, it can't be that bad. And she'd be like, babysit. See how that goes. And she'd leave me with each of her relatives just for an evening. And then at the end, they'd be like, yeah, this kid's not okay.
Were you in pain as a baby?
Yeah, so as a baby, I was just in horrific amounts of pain. My dad had to invent a new way of holding me. So, normally they're like, cuddle the baby, really squeeze it, they'll love it. I hated it. I was like, this is so painful. And I would just scream and scream and scream. And it was because my nerves hadn't properly like connected.
Okay.
So my dad would have to hold me with touching me as little as possible. And that would be the way that as a baby I needed to be held.
Which is also very like counterintuitive as a parent.
Yeah. Like, my child is crying, let me hug it. And I'm like, ow, this really hurts, don't. And then as I grew up, it was the constant like illness or injury. I was going to school maybe 3 or 4 days a week rather than the whole week because I just couldn't make it through that far. So I just wouldn't go to school on Fridays because I'd have injured myself or I'd be ill. And I guess for a lot of teachers and adults around me, it did seem very much like, this child is an annoying hypochondriac and is always a drama queen, and why is always something wrong? And I'm like, no, that genuinely is.
But it's interesting because that coupled with dyslexia as well, you must have just felt very alienated. And I know you love to learn. You're a very like fascinated person with education.
I think I'm quite fortunate in that my dyslexia doesn't affect my reading. So when I had a dyslexia test when I was 8, because my mom's dyslexic as well, so it's kind of like it's pretty clear that this kid's dyslexic, but it affects her reading. But with me, I had my dyslexia test, and they test where you are on a range of 0 to 18 years old on your reading, writing, comprehension, etc. And my reading was over 18, so I could read at an adult level, and my spelling was 4. I was like, I can spell as well as a 4-year-old. Good. And it was really thrown off. And the guy was like, I think you're faking this. I'm like, I'm really not.
I'm trying.
I really can't spell milk. It's a hard word.
Which also...
Still struggle.
Because most of the time if you read a lot, your spelling will then just be better because you're used to seeing the words. So I guess that shows it is definitely dyslexia.
Yeah, it was pretty rubbish because I can read when something is wrong. So I'd be writing down words like, nope, that's not right. I'd write it out again, nope, that's not right. So I know it's wrong. I just don't know what's right.
So what did you spend your time when you were not at school? What did you spend your time doing?
Reading. I was essentially like a tiny blonde Matilda. So I would go to my local library, and in summertime, I'd get 6 books out a day and bring them home in my little bag. And then I'd read the 6 books, and the next day I'd be back at the library. Come to check in my books, please. And I read all the way through all of the children's section and all of the teenage section, and the lady was like, historical fiction? I don't know,
Hopefully
what else is open to you?
Gregory.
No, some of it was very raunchy.
And you're there like, I'm only 9.
I was like, woo, I'm learning. It's things I didn't want to learn.
I don't know if I'm prepared for this.
Oh dear.
Okay, so you read a lot, and when did you learn to edit? When did you learn to...
Oh my gosh, edit videos.
Edit video, yeah. When did you learn the video?
Not till way after that, I have to say. I made some really old videos with a friend of mine. We did not have editing software. We had like given like her dad's old camera where it recorded onto a tape.
Yes.
So we were very much like, we just have to be smooth and slick with this. We got to know when just to stop filming. You can't trim it at all.
This is where you definitely didn't grow up in the TikTok generation of like stop motion editing. Like
there was no like, I've just filmed this, just gonna crop the ends.
I'm gonna Facetune.
It was like you got to have someone there ready to press stop and record immediately,
and then cut up tape afterwards.
Stick it together.
Cool. Okay.
Yes, back in the oldie days.
So was that by the time, because you said you got really ill at 17? So could you edit before you were 17, or was it after?
No, I couldn't. That would have been a useful skill.
So what happened at 17? What was the thing that...
Yeah, so I'd kind of been going downhill, health-wise, to kind of an extent that I was like, this clearly is not right, guys. This clearly is not okay. So I have a scoliosis, which is because of the connective tissue, and it was so painful. Like looking back now, the amount of pain that I was going through on a daily basis is insane. So I was going to school with like a big heavy backpack full of bags, and I tried to convince my teachers I didn't need all the books. I was like, could I not just share with the person sat next to me? And they're like, no, you have to bring in your own book. And I'm like, genuinely life-altering pain. And they're like, no, you still have to bring them. And I would, at the end of every day, I would pretend to my mother that I had lost my bus money or I'd spent it on something. So she'd come and pick me up, because I was like, I cannot go through this pain. I can't walk down this hill to the bus, get on the bus, and sit on the bus for this length of time. I need to go home right now and make her take me. And And it was just kind of things like I was getting injured more often and more severely. So injuries that to other people would have been really minor, to me it was a 6-month recovery, whereas someone else is like, oh, twisted my ankle, it hurts a bit for a week and I'll hobble. And I'm like, well, I'm on crutches, so for 6 months this is going well. And then when I was 17, in my first AS exam actually, I leant on my elbow on the table while I was writing, and I got a crick in my neck. And I woke up the next morning and my hand had started to go numb and it was very floppy and I couldn't lift it, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious, as all teenagers would. I was like, I've woken up with a dead arm. It's so funny. And my friend was coming over to revise and we just made jokes about it all day long, and it was how like I couldn't pick up anything. I couldn't pick up a glass, and by the end of the day I was like, my arm's dead.
Like, this is less amusing now.
This is not funny.
The joke's got old.
Yeah, and it was completely paralysed from the shoulder down. And then a few days later, my other arm became paralysed from the shoulder down. That was very much not funny. And my parents rushed me to hospital.
Where they knew you on a first name basis. I say rushed me.
My parents by this time were like, she is always injured.
They're like, will they believe her this time?
Like, we'll meander to the hospital. We're going to stop along the way, get the newspaper. We know we'll be there a while. And we get to the hospital and they were like, oh, well, she may have like a brain tumor or meningitis. My parents were like, oh, you're taking us seriously this time? Ooh, this is new and exciting. But no, it was, they found out that I had this genetic condition that paralyzes parts of me. And my arms were actually paralyzed for 1.5 years before they started to come back. So I'm very skilled at doing things without my hands.
So 1.5 years, where this has got to be an attack, like you never experienced anything like that before?
No, not to that degree.
How,
ever.
As a young person, because that's very young to deal with an issue like that.
Yeah.
How did you...
I think that it was a mixture of things. Having grown up knowing that there was something wrong with me, but not having people believe me, and kind of having my own little book world. And also I'm going to throw in being a Quaker in there. Just knowing that I was a bit different, but being very sure of who I am. Being very sure that I was right. I was like, well, I know something's wrong with me, even if other people don't believe it. So I was very secure in myself and very happy to spend a lot of time with myself, I suppose. Yeah. So when I was then like, right, you're going to be in hospital, and they did some tests on me that made me very ill. I had a lumbar puncture that went wrong, so all of my spinal fluid leaked out. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I feel
sorry.
bad. Don't be sorry for me. I feel sorry for you at that age. Like,
yeah, it was pretty gross. So that's why I was on bed rest for so long in the dark.
Spinal taps are supposed to be really painful, so I can't imagine having all your spinal fluid leak out. Must have been.
Yeah. So it feels as if your entire body is a bruise. So it was very strange because it was like my middle was spongy. So my back was actually kind of spongy where the spinal fluid was. Because it doesn't leak out of your body, it just leaks into your body.
So how did you cope with, like, you couldn't read because you couldn't move your arms?
No.
Did your family visit a lot? Did your friends visit? Were you just lying there most of the time? Like, what?
Yeah, pretty much just lying there. Like, my friends had things to do. I lost most of my school friends, yeah. But the friends who, like my primary school friends, were amazing and they still came. But obviously they had to go to school and then they went to university and people kind of just went on with their lives. I made some amazing new friends, people who had kind of been on the periphery of my friendship group. It's just amazing, those people who kind of step into a hole and are like, we're here for you. And they were all the kids who'd gone through something big, which kind of gave me the idea that I think no matter what the biggest thing is that you've ever gone through, it's equal to someone else's biggest thing because it's a big drama, you know? So I think
it changes your life.
So I think any kind of life-changing experience that people have gone through, it makes you better able to relate to someone else. No, it doesn't matter whether their experience is the same one exactly or not, but you get what someone else has gone through.
So I'm trying to imagine
my day.
Not even your day, just because your brain was very active. You're a very active thinker. You're there not sure what's going to happen in your life. Did they give you any like timeline that you'd be better, or did they just say this might carry on indefinitely and you're 17? Like, thanks.
I mean, fortunately, to start with, it's like being in a semi-coma because your brain shuts itself down to cope because it's obviously dehydrating. So you're only really conscious for about an hour out of the day, I would say. So that's pretty good. It's quite nice.
Great, everything's shutting down. Yeah, brilliant. A bonus.
Semi-dead. It's fine. Yeah, so that's fine because then you don't have to occupy yourself very much. But they said, it will get better. I was like, when? Like, I mean, it takes different people different amounts of time. I'd say in the end it took maybe 3 years, and I'm still living with the effects of that having happened. But there wasn't I didn't know a definite, I will get better, this will happen, stuff will improve, life will I just assumed it would. I'm like relentlessly optimistic. So I was like, it will be fine. One day I will be way better, and then I'm going to meet Eliza Dushku. And she's going to see me and fall in love with me. We're going to get married, have 4 babies, and I will be immensely famous for being a showrunner.
So I was going to ask what thoughts kind of got you through that, because a lot of people, I think, it'd be very easy to seep into negativity, or become very depressed with that as a start of your life. How did you stay so positive, and how were you so sure you'd be back to being like able-bodied and to fulfill your dreams? Like, how?
Yeah, so partly it was just that it was like, well, it's either positive and we move forwards or game over. So it's like I could give up, or I could just continue for a bit, see how this goes. I'm here now, might as well make the best of it. And also there was just this sense that I wasn't done, that there were things I needed to do, and if I didn't stay here, if I didn't remain alive, and I think for a lot of it I did just will myself to remain alive, but if I didn't do that, then there would be people I was letting down, and not even people that I knew at that moment. More like one day I wanted to have children, and I wanted to adopt some children, and if I don't stay alive, who's going to adopt them? And one day I want to be able to make these stories so that people who are in my position can feel better. And if I don't get out of this, how can I tell someone that they can get out of it too? And that was a really big thing for me, was that I didn't feel like I had a role model. I didn't feel like I had anyone who could tell me, yes, sucks right now, but look, I've been there, it's going to get better. And I was like, and if I don't have anyone, then there must be thousands of other people in the same position and they don't have anyone. So it's up to me to do that and be that.
There are so many things in that we need to delve into more. So many. Okay, so, right. Firstly, that's something that's really interesting about you. You definitely balance having like a personal life mission, like the way you want your own private life to be, and then you definitely balance that with like a greater sense of social purpose. And I've heard you talk about this a little bit before, about how you want to give people a role model for someone who maybe is not able-bodied in a traditional sense, or you have so many special things about you. You're like deaf, lesbian, Quaker, you're ginger.
Yeah. I'm not really ginger, I'm actually blonde.
But
sorry.
Now you are. Yeah, sorry, she grew up. You wanted to add another one. You're also wonderful in so many ways. But I think the way you live your life is kind of unapologetic in lots of ways. And do you think it comes partly from having gone through that?
Yeah, I guess there's partly the sense of, I don't care, I almost died. Like, what are you going to do? I don't, whatever.
The way you dress is very visually, like when people see you, they're like, oh, she's different. And you're like, great, yes.
Sure. Yeah, but also there isn't that much of an element of choice in it for me. I think maybe I just made a deal with myself when I was young that I was going to do exactly what was Jessica, and it just doesn't matter. So like I don't necessarily, when I put together an outfit, for instance, I don't think like, what's gonna look really interesting and weird and different. I'm just like, these colors are nice together, and look, my skirt is big and fluffy, and that makes me happy.
But most people don't I don't know, even from personal experience, people see me, I think, as quite strong-willed, but I don't think I really knew who I was growing up. I don't know if I'd have had the courage to be like, doctor, something is wrong. I know you have much training, but I have a sense of what I feel.
I am right.
Yeah, it's quite special. And do you feel like, I think it's one of the things that makes you as a creator kind of uncompromisingly delightful.
Oh, that's very nice. Uncompromisingly delightful.
But because you feel as though you're actually getting to know someone who really knows themselves.
Yeah. I spent 2 years with myself, just by myself. I don't think there's any better way to get to know yourself.
Do you remember a moment where you got kind of feeling back in an arm, like your arm became unparalysed?
It was very slow. I wish there was some kind of like movie moment where it moves.
Like, ta-da, I'll be a dancer.
Oh, this moves like a half a millimeter more than it did last month. Cool.
So it was really gradual.
Yeah, it was very, very gradual. It was a very sort of slight thing. For a while, I just had to wear wrist splints.
Yeah.
But the rest of my arms moved. That was good. They're still really very floppy and they're still quite delicate. I'm not very strong. I can't like hold very heavy things. I can't drink without a straw from a glass.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So yes, they are. I have to take care of them though. You have to, like I was saying about how, I think there's also a sense that you have to be nice to yourself, especially if the world isn't going to be. Because I was like, my poor arms have had such a misfortune happen to them. I must be kind to them if no one else will be.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, yeah, you are doing yourself justice. And maybe that's where the personal life, kind of having these really secure aims comes from. You're like, I'm going to make sure that I live a happy life because I've had quite a difficult time so far.
Yeah.
So you suddenly started coming out of hospital. Well, not suddenly. It sounds like it was quite a long process.
Yeah. In and out. Oh, yeah. So I kind of started coming out of hospital. And then one day I was on Facebook looking at the lives of the people I had gone to school with and what they were doing now. And I was like, look at them doing their stuff. I should do some stuff. And then I saw a little advert in the corner that was, are you fabulous and disabled? And I was like, yes.
Hello,
it's calling to me. And I clicked on it and it was an advert to sign up for the BBC show Britain's Missing Top Model, which is basically America's Next Top Model for disabled British girls. And I was like, wow. Yeah, let's go and have some fun. I'm starting to get bored.
Because you went to uni as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. That was after.
So this was after uni. So
the show came first.
The show came first. So you were what, 19?
Yeah, so I was 19. I was just still on bed rest. I was so delicate. I was in no way healthy enough to do it, but I wanted to. And my parents know not to stand in my way when I want to do something because I'm a very determined child.
Very independent.
Very independent, very determined child. They're like, okay, fine, go. You do whatever you want to do. Yeah. There's always, life's never boring with me, I have to say.
Good. I think Claude would agree with that as well.
Yeah. The things I drag her into. She's like, why, and how? How do we get to this? But fine.
You're always like in a field or somewhere. I show people your Instagram.
No, we fortunately have the same idea of fun, which is like running through a field.
Or would. I show people your Instagram, they're like, she's disabled, she's running through a field. And I'm like, yes.
It's the only time she moves.
Yeah. So you did Britain's Next Missing Top Model.
Yeah, Britain's Britain's Missing Top Model.
Because then it would have infringed on ANTM's franchise.
Yeah, copyright.
Britain's Missing Top Model. From what I've heard, that wasn't the most positive experience. If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to.
No, it's fine to talk about it.
It was not the most positive experience.
I didn't sign it.
Which is hilarious.
Do not
I
talk
know
about
you
contract.
as the nicest person in the world. Like, genuinely, I can't... You're not mean about people. And so... from what it sounded like, they may have mischaracterized you somewhat.
Yeah. Well, not the show itself per se. It was a very strange experience. It was 3 weeks of living in this house with other girls. And I just kind of come to terms with the fact, right, I'm disabled. I'm going to be disabled the rest of my life. But I don't know any disabled people. So I should make some disabled friends. So that's also part of why I signed up for the show, was literally like, I just want to meet some other teenage disabled girls who are into fashion and the stuff that I am.
What could go wrong?
I know. I went into this like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to make friends.
And
they did not want to make friends with me. It was very much the setup of the show. I think they had miscalculated in that they didn't know what they were doing, I felt. They didn't know whether they wanted to make a show where it's like we all bond and grow closer and like share our experiences, and we go through these like catwalking together, and it's so kind of empowering and wonderful. This was very much before the time of body positivity, and isn't it empowering to have inclusive different bodies walking down the catwalk? No, this was very much before that time. We all got taught to lose weight. Like,
yeah,
I was a size 8. Actually, I wasn't. I was a size 6 when I did that show, and they were like, you need to tone up those thighs. Woman, I've not moved for 2 years, but sure.
You're like, yeah, I'll just jump on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Give me a sec.
Be fine.
But yeah, actually, I remember, because that must have been at the same time where kind of ANTM was out, and it was like, be fierce, be super competitive. And it's really hard. You can't really create a culture. Actually, this may be a business problem as well. You can't really create a culture of empowerment and deep competition.
Yeah. So they were pitting us all against each other. And because the show was based upon disability as well as fashion, it became not so much who was the best model, but who was the worst disabled person. So it was like, who's got the worst disability and therefore deserves to win? And it's like, pretty sure the best model should be the one winning. But which I think she did, which is, thank goodness. Like, she's really gorgeous.
Insert picture here.
But the actual show itself and the kind of culture of it became something else, where it was very much like we're in it for ourselves, to the extent that we had one of those like traditional go-sees where they phone up the house and go, you've got to be here in an hour's time, be ready for your go-see. And they did that, and I was downstairs with the girl who got the call, and she was like, right, we've got to go, everyone get ready, running around the house, told kind of the people who were her friends, they got dressed and they left. And I was like, there are 2 deaf girls upstairs, you've not told them that we're going. And they were like, yeah, well, it's a competition, and left. And I was like, so I obviously was like, well, I'm not coming with you, leave. And so went upstairs and got the girls and were like, look, they have just gone, they've left, this is happening, we've got to move. And just the fact that they would have left them was, to me, horrifying. So the 3 of us managed to get there eventually. But then there were other things, like I had to sleep a lot still during this time. And in between filming, every time the cameras were not rolling, I was unconscious because I could not film and then like chat behind the scenes, which I think did create a bit of a divide with the other girls, because for them it was very much like, if we're not filming, she's someone totally different because she's asleep. Which is like, no, I'm not someone different. I'm just an unconscious myself.
Like, this is not calculated. This is what my body needs.
Yes. I'm shutting down. It's this or I just crash out. Not good. And then in one of them, like I was called to go in for a go-see, and I was unconscious, and they filmed the girls sitting around me, my unconscious body, having the conversation about how it was my own fault. And they should leave me. They shouldn't wake me up to send me in because I wasn't going to cut it in the modelling world, obviously. Or how was I going to cut it in the world if I didn't learn these harsh lessons?
It sounds like the show was somewhat misguided in that you've got to decide, if you're going to be a show that wants to change the world and change representation and change the industry, you then need to change all the standards and the way people behave. But if you're not going to change those standards, you're literally shoehorning people into a role that is very difficult for them to fulfill, and there's no point in doing the show.
I was so heartbroken watching it back, because what I had wanted the show to be, which was this like amazing, empowering moment that showed that disabled people could be into fashion, we could be there for each other, we could hold hands and stride across a stage and be like, look, we're here, we should be represented, everybody is beautiful, everyone deserves to feel cherished and wanted and fashionable, hadn't happened. And I was like, it was such a missed opportunity.
And then you left, then went to university, then went into TV. How after that did you not feel like TV wasn't quite the place for you?
I know.
Or did it like break down your desire to tell your story or to be in the public eye?
I think the hilarious thing was that after the show, I had a lot of hate online. There was a message board that the BBC had set up to talk about this one particular show. And half of the people were so sweet and so lovely and were like, Jessica's really lovely, I like her. Jessica's got a great walk. Jessica's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, these people are really nice. And half of it was just horrific. And then some of the girls from the show kind of fed into that, the not so great half. And I got all the kind of things that we expect people to get nowadays, the like death threats, the hatred, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it just made me think this is not the way this should have gone. And if I had been in charge, it wouldn't have gone that way. So I should be in charge.
Now you are in charge of your own comments.
Yes, and now I'm in charge.
What do you do? So do you ever get hate, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I get hate. I mean, everyone gets hate, right? But I actually get surprisingly little hate. I get the kind of obvious copy and pasted Bible verses, which I'm just like, sure, okay.
Also, you're a Quaker. How do you feel when people are trying to use religion against you?
Well, that's a very complex question, because as Quakers, we feel that everyone should be allowed to have their own religion and, you know, practice their own, have your own belief. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean you can do whatever you like. So I'm like, sure, have your belief, but I'm very secure in knowing that I think you're wrong. So I'm fine.
Do you keep those comments up then, or do you delete them? How do you...
I only delete comments that I feel are objectively offensive. If you're disagreeing with me, if you are saying, you know, your hair looks terrible, like, sure, maybe my hair didn't look terrible that day. It's fine, whatever. But if it's something that I feel someone else reading it will be offended by, then I get rid of it. I want my channel very much to be a place that teenage girl that I was can come, feel safe, know that she can watch a video, she can scroll down into the comments, she can start reading, and she's not going to trip over something that's going to make her feel worthless and invalid. Because of course I get those comments. I made a video about how disabled people need plastic straws and we shouldn't just have a blanket ban. There should be more thought put into this. And so many of the comments were like, yeah, well, we don't really need disabled people anyway.
What?
Surely it's more important to have the environment than it is to have disabled people. If disabled people are so special, they should just die. I'm like, well, nah.
That video, you never come across as very combative. You come across as, please be more thoughtful, or think about, when you make a blanket statement, think about the people who on the margins who you may not have considered. It came across to me as a very considered, careful, thought-provoking video.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I think you do that consistently. But to find out that you get comments like that is just pretty unbelievable.
It's strange, isn't it? I find that strange. I think possibly because of my Quakerism, the way I always structure my arguments is that you hold this position, I don't agree with your position, here are the reasons I don't agree with your position, but I'm very open to understanding why you think that way. The YouTube videos that I consume are not necessarily from the same point of view as me. The ones that I watch the most are going to be extremely in the opposite, because I would need to know why you think that way. So I know why I think this, and that's fine. I don't need to hear 5 people telling me the same. I need to hear 5 people who have the opposite viewpoint.
That's the opposite to how most people use the internet, because they end up in an echo chamber and you're like, come on, tell me something I hate.
Break my echo chamber. No.
I'm imagining you've got like NRA subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's more like you're trying to find out what people in the world really think.
Yes. Because I don't believe that any human being is a bad person. I don't believe anyone holds a thought that is objectively evil. I think we all believe what we think is right. I think we all believe that we're trying to do the best, right? So I just need to know why you think that's the best way to go about something. And I'm here to present why I think this is the best way.
I guess this gets to the root of your channel, where essentially you are trying to shape people's opinions and trying to represent something they haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Is that your main motivation for running the channel?
I think my main motivation is still to help the little girl or boy or whoever who is stuck in the situation and needs to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So it's partly to do that, but it's definitely also to help other people to connect with that person. So I'm both here as a spokesperson for you to say, I'm here, I'm going to represent your views, and also to bring people.
And to translate them. Yeah. I think so. Your most popular video is 6.4 million views, I think.
Oh, is it?
Organically, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
And it's Why You Don't Sound Deaf.
Yeah.
I think that kind of embodies it very well. You're translating your experience to someone. You're trying to explain how much effort you put into not sounding deaf and enunciating your words and how difficult it is. Yeah. So I think you're simultaneously helping people feel represented and then other people understand.
Yes, because so much of my energy obviously goes on being able to communicate with human beings. So both with trying to understand what, say, you're saying and I'm lip reading, and that takes a lot of brain power because you don't get every word at all, and then your brain is constantly churning, trying to fill in those words and put them together and make a sentence, and then you've got to work out what the sentence actually means, and you may need to swap some words in and out. So it has to be a very fast process, obviously, in order to hold on a conversation. So it takes a lot of energy. But then also to be able to speak to you, it's a lot of both muscle memory and training. And I'm very fortunate that I read a lot before I started to go deaf. I started to go deaf when I was about 15, but I didn't realize it. I just thought that I was getting really dreamy. It's like, cannot stop daydreaming. It's very strange. Can't break myself out of this and hear what people are saying. So I find it very difficult to say any new words. Okay. Anything that's new and presented to me, but fortunately I did read a lot before that age and have a lot of conversations with people. So
you had a very advanced reading age, so you were probably better versed with your vocabulary than most adults.
Yes. Thank goodness.
I was looking through your channel as well, and it looks like the first videos you made were about sign language and about...
the very, very first videos that I made, because I had my channel in like 2011. That was for a university project.
Because I was like, I looked at that and I was like, she hasn't been on YouTube for 8 years. I was like, no, she's grown really fast. This hasn't been 8 years of slow growth. You're not an OG YouTuber.
Yeah, no, I just made a channel in 2011 because we had a university project to do about YouTube. So I was like, how do I get out of writing an essay? I know, make essay length videos. Again, writing, dyslexia. So I just made all of these videos and then I did nothing with my YouTube until I decided that I was going to make a career out of it.
And so when did you decide? How quickly did it become a career?
Well, I decided in 2016, because that's the year we got married.
I feel like there's lots, like, relationships come into this as well. I feel like once you met Claude, you're kind of quite supported.
Yes, there is something to be said for that. She is my safety net, completely. That I didn't feel like I'd ever had before. It's very hard to know that you can just leap. And I think especially as a disabled person, when you feel like there are not a lot of job opportunities and there isn't that, I can do this project, but you know what, if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to go and get like a job at a bar. I can't do that. It's like I have very narrow little pathways that I am able to go down. It has to be something that I'm able to do myself from home, something that I'm able to work to my own timetable and schedule and produce, and it kind of has to be creative because that's what I can do. So having Claudia really gave me the inspiration to be like, it's okay, I can do this. I can put myself out there And if it doesn't work, she'll help me find the next thing that I will go and try myself.
But even more than funding, like emotionally.
No, I meant emotionally. I didn't mean with
you
funding.
said find, not fund.
Find.
I thought you said fund. I was like, no, I think it's fine.
That was on me. See, I try and make words. They don't always work.
No, you were perfect. I was just surprised for a second. I was like, no, that's not the relationship you seem to have. You seem to really care about each other.
No, she'll help me find my next thing.
That was not a Claude Sugar mummy.
Well, she is 69 weeks older than me. So she is,
just over a year.
An older lady.
So you had the support to go and do what you wanted. And so you gave it 6 months. What did you make in the first 6 months? What, as in terms of videos?
Very much to start with, from day one, it was like, I'm going to make 5 videos a week.
Bloody hell.
I know.
That is, you don't understand. You gave yourself more work than most YouTubers who are daily vlogging.
Why? Go hard or go home.
Relentless optimism.
Indeed. To start with, it was a real mix of stuff, though, because I needed to be able to, even though I was publishing something 5 times a week, I needed to be able to film not 5 times a week. So I would film 8 things in one day and then get it ready. And also from the very start, I have Clara, who is my amazing carer / assistant / everything.
Clara's amazing.
She's amazing. She's my life assistant. So she does care work and stuff for me. Some days her job is very strange. Her job is very strange. Like, she'll turn up some mornings and we're like, right, we're going to go to London and we've got a meeting. And it's like, okay, cool. And we're just, here's a photo shoot. And she's my assistant, like, running around, being super helpful. And then some days we're doing business stuff and we're going to do taxes. And it's so fun. So fun.
Everyone's favourite part of this job.
Yes. Great job. And it's like, okay, now we're editing and we're doing this and we're like writing this and we're designing merch. And some days she turns up and it's literally like, Jessica is completely out of it, unable to make a coherent sentence. You must do medical, looking after Jessica, cleaning the sick buckets, putting Jessica in the bath, helping me to the loo. I don't know why I'm talking about myself in third person.
Many people would. Yeah, not many people, I think, would know how to deal with that as a job.
Yes, and I'm utterly terrified of her leaving me.
You're like, Clara, I love you, don't go.
I know. Like, please don't ever leave. Yeah, it's a very weird little job.
And did it help you be kind of a professional YouTuber from the beginning, having that, trying to create that structure around you?
I'm very into structure. Yeah, I think you can probably could have guessed that.
Yeah, you're never late on deadlines. Even when you're ill, you're like, it's like, oh, Jessica has a migraine and can't function today, but don't worry, everything will still be delivered on time. Yes. I'm like, okay, is she sure? We can be flexible. It's like, no.
It's happening.
They were like, there are legal contracts in place so that you can look after yourself if you're ill. There's force majeure stuff, and you're like, no.
Yeah, because it's like, well, when am I not ill?
Fair. There are some days that are worse than others.
Yeah, but it's that kind of like, oh, well, if I waited until I was well to do something, it would never get done.
Wouldn't have started the channel.
It wouldn't have started life, no.
It's amazing. It's actually really interesting to get this insight into your brain where you're trying to do a lot of big societal things whilst at the same time trying to have a personal professional life that you can do. And there's so much in this. You're a very different type of creator to most people. What is kind of the one thing that impact you want to have on the world?
Kindness. I just want people to be kinder. That's it. I just want to help people be kinder to themselves and to each other.
Cool. I agree. I think your channel does that.
Thank you. I kind of think that should be everyone's mission in life, but
I know, sadly, it's not. Heartbreaking. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. We're going to do quickfire questions and we're going to sign and give away the camera. But this has been, I feel like there's so much more we could discuss.
You can bring me back.
Yeah, we will. Perfect.
Another time.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Quickfire questions.
Okay.
Your favourite YouTube channel that isn't yours?
Oh my God, no, that's too hard. That's not fair. My favourite YouTube channel is NerdSync. For sure. It's like the history of the world through comics.
A brand that you actually like.
Diet Coke.
Hilariously, that goes on to favourite drink.
Diet Coke.
Your favourite food or cuisine?
My favourite food is char kway teow, which is a Malaysian specialty dish. It's so good. It's like the thick, fun noodles.
Your favourite advertising campaign?
Marks and Spencer's. You know, at Christmas, like Marks and Spencer's, when they've got ladies of every shape and size and they're just like having fun with the wonder of Christmas and together and bonding. I love it.
The last time you cried?
Yesterday at the new Lloyd's advert with the foal and the mother horse, and they go through hard times and then they find the herd together, and it's beautiful.
The worst fad on YouTube?
Tide Pods, which is a pretty terrible one.
Phone or text? Phone or text? Obviously text. That's an insensitive question.
It's fine, move on.
Can we actually plug at this moment, because I think it's really, really important, your which app you use for your captions on Instagram stories, because it's amazing and I love it and I think everyone should use it.
Yes, so I use an app called Clip-O-Matic on my phone, which will, as you record, it records your speech into subtitles, and you then have to like click on them and correct anything that's gone wrong. There's also the Clips app, which is Apple only. However, it only does live video, and only in a square, which is very annoying. So you can't put a video into it and then put captions, which they need to change. Apple, bring me on.
That's the one that lets you be in multiple situations.
Oh yes, I had a lot of fun with that.
We're gonna find the Twitter thread of you and is that Hannah
Whitton being like,
it's amazing.
I'm in space.
That was one of my favourite Twitter discussions. Your dream video that you could make, any video, what would it be?
I would go around the country investigating people with ME and why they are being neglected.
If you could be any animal, what would you be?
A peacock. It's my favourite animal.
A female or male peacock? They look different.
Which one do you think?
Yeah, obviously male.
The very exciting one.
What's your next holiday destination?
We're going to go to Devon in July.
It's just the two of you?
And the dogs, obviously. Can't go there without the dogs. We're a family of 4.
Your favourite social network?
Instagram.
Your least favourite social network?
Anything that's not YouTube, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
The next video you're making?
Packing up my house to move.
Your dream brand deal?
Diet Coke.
Would you do it for free product if they gave you a lifetime supply of
yes.
Diet Coke? Favourite person in the world?
My wife!
Yay! Well, thank you very much for watching this podcast, and thanks, Jess, for coming.
You're very welcome.
Literally one of the most inspiring and strong and positive people I have ever met in my life.
Oh,
genuinely.
Thank you. I think that about you.
Oh. If you leave a comment saying what your favourite thing Jess said was, or a question you would have liked us to ask her, you can have the chance to win this vintage camera that Jess spray painted and got on my hand.
It was my first time spray painting. Shockingly not great at it.
No, you are good at it. You're just clearly not like a graffiti artist. You had fun.
This has been lovely. I love chatting with you.
Had a lot of fun. Cool. Thank you. Right, bye.